All right, my friends, here's a wonderful story for you. From no Ingles to having about over 2 million of liquid assets, never mind his house and whatnot. That's why I love America. This is why immigration is actually a good thing, without question. All right, so let me tell you about this story about a client I'm working with who gave me permission. I'm not gonna say his name or anything, but he gave me permission to use his story as an enlightenment. Well, he didn't say it, but just the enlightenment of how great America is. On top of that, the enlightenment that you don't need to be born with a friggin' silver spoon in your mouth to be able to retire with a sizable net worth. In fact, I would go on a very safe limb to say the vast majority of us who retire with a couple mil are probably come from rough backgrounds. I bet I would be willing to put that in a spreadsheet and bet on it for sure. All right, so let's go with this guy. 13, he's born and raised in Mexico, Monterrey. All right, so if you're familiar with Monterrey, in Mexico area, that's Monterrey used to be, I'm not sure if it still is, one of the wealthiest places in Mexico. So much that they were even considering putting an NFL team there at one point, because Monterrey was, it's like North Mexico just freaking was booming. I don't know if it still is. Reminds me of Tampico down there on the Gulf Coast on the eastern side of Mexico. I think to flee from Tampico, you gotta go through Monterrey. If memory serves, I don't know, but I just remember learning about Monterrey, learning about Tampico from people I've met. It's very interesting dynamics. All right, so I think he said his parents divorced. Can't remember the whole story. His dad moved to Dallas. Sounds like his dad, I can't remember exactly, but he comes to Dallas at 13 years old to live with his dad, if memory serves. Something happened where he moved in with his brother. And his brother marries a lady, and the lady says, I don't want your brother here, guy. And so I can't remember the whole story, but basically from 13 to 17, he's pretty much on his own. I don't think he's homeless, but I don't remember the exact story of where he laid his head. And he mowed lawns. He didn't go to school, can't speak a lick of English, and he mowed lawns. All right, well, one day he goes to Jack in the Box and wants to order a hamburger. The lady says, I don't understand what you're saying. She says, no Inglés? And he says, no, Espanol. And they could not communicate. It was at that point where my man said, this is ridiculous, I gotta learn the language of the native population. So he pursued a GED. He learned English. Fast forward 40 years, chemical engineer, if memory serves, overseeing a bunch of other engineers. It just paid for house, investment property that's paid for, in terms of he has a tenant in there who's doing great by him. The tenant's paying his mortgage and he's netting income from it. Raised 2 kids, waiting for grandkids. Been married for 30 odd years, 35 years. In good shape. Probably 5'7", $150, $160. Wife's good shape. Obviously they love Mexican food. And he's not worried about running out of money. He's worried about the tax ramifications. Anyway, so here's a POC, a person of color, but even worse than being a POC, and I say worse because everyone tells us POCs are inherently discriminated against in America. This guy probably was, to be honest with you. Not many people spoke Spanish in Texas back then. Still in the Dallas area. So he had to learn the native language. Shocking, huh? Friggin' when in Greece, do as the Greeks do? Well, that would make sense 101, start point. Learn the damn language. Wherever country you're in, learn the native language. I don't get why that's so freaking controversial. And if memory serves, he didn't learn the language by bilingual education. He just immersed himself and learned it. And that's how you do it, man. bilingual education is it going to teach you? It's like taking Spanish into school. I can't tell you how many times I've took Spanish in school, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but when I went to Peru for 10 days, while I wasn't able to speak it very well, I was able to understand it. Just 10 days in Peru, man, able to understand it. If I was there for another month, I'm sure I've been speaking it. Anyway, so long story short, this guy says, I got to learn the language, I got to get educated, and it's funny, but he didn't go the route of education the way you would think. He got a GED. He was 17 years old, not enrolled in any school. He hadn't been in school for, since he'd been in the States. And that's when he came here when he was 13. So he takes the GED, passes flying colors, he works some grunt work to build his contacts, build his connections, save some money, and now, lo and behold, here he is at 60 years old or something like that, about ready to retire. And he's got the FU money now. He can retire whenever he wants. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be next year, but it's whenever he wants. But not only is he a POC with all the inherent discrimination that people tell us they face, which I absolutely do not believe in this day and age, that's for sure. But back then, I certainly do. But he couldn't even speak the language. So if there's ever a guy that was going to be discriminated and held back, it's going to be this guy. And yet, that didn't happen. Why? Because he freaking put his head down, he dealt with the clowns that came into his life, and just drove on. He just drove on. I'm sitting there thinking, he should have spoken at the Republican National Convention, actually. I don't even know if he's Republican, I have no idea. But why, oh why, can this guy succeed and native-born Americans can't? It's because we've been pampered to say, it's against you, man, it's against you. If you're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you can't succeed. It's evil, dudes. Evil, what these people are doing. From our school system to our culture, to media, to everything. It's evil what these clowns are doing. It's like, but it's also evil to what they're doing to just, like my kids, basically. We want to protect you from any calamity. We want to protect you. Whoa, let's get you bubble wrap and protect you. Oh. And that's not how freaking character is built. Just look at the NBA, the silliness. LeBron James always was pampered. Who's the other guy who said he was, what's the word I'm looking for? Like PTSD because of this Jacob Blake being shot. Dude, this is what happens since the society has fallen apart. Stuff that freaking 15 years ago, you would say, I can't believe I watched this guy get shot. I can't go to work. Oh my goodness. That would have been laughed out of the freaking country. You say, get your ass out of here, clown. This isn't a place for pampered people, pampered chefs. This is a place for freaking people who show up, put their big boy pants and go to work. And if you do that, there's a good chance you're going to succeed. I'm sitting there thinking, I cannot believe these NBA players who've been pampered since the AAU days. They've had all the accolades, everyone kowtowing to them, all the ladies, everyone just throwing, look, and I see it even here. Let's just put it this way. My kids, on occasion, play on sports teams, and the level of, we got a couple coaches here who are former NFL players, and the level of heroic worship that fathers have for these guys, it's insane, even though these guys are retired. And then the level of when kids play on the field and do well, we're talking 5th and 6th graders now. And the level of basic worship for these kids as well, these are freaking 5th graders, man. And grown men are like, oh no, and women too for that matter. Oh, that kid, oh. It's sick. It's sickening. These kids have never been told no. It's not just the athletes, it's our own children. They've never been told no. I'm guilty as charged too, I ain't gonna lie. Hell. But I'm guilty as charged because I believe, as I read in a book by Brian Kaplan. But your kids are who they are, from the get-go. And so I say, hey, man, whatever. And I've just always been laissez-faire, hands off. They'll figure it out, because I figured it out. And they're going to figure out with risk involved. That's the only way to achieve is when you figure it out. On your own. But when parents are like, oh no, little Johnny, we can't have any risk. Risk is bad. Anything that's worth accomplishing that makes you proud is because you had to fight for it, man. Gosh. Nothing is of value if it was handed to you. It's only valued if you had to spend blood, sweat, and tears to accomplish it. There is nothing ever valued that has been handed to you. I don't care what it is. If you go to college and they just give you inflated grades, which they do, you're not holding that in value. If mommy and daddy give you a car, you're not holding that in value. You know why? Because it's not yours. It was handed to you. Had nothing to do with your own skill set. And if it's lost, i.e. you crash that car, you're like, wasn't mine to begin with. Now, it might be might put you back a little bit in terms of your ability to drive, but other than that, it doesn't hurt you. Nothing of consequence is given to you. Everything of consequence is achieved through hard work and struggle. It's just, and this is what our society has gone wrong. Look at my man here. I guarantee there are times he said, man, these people are racist, people are discriminatory, I can't communicate, I'm never going to achieve something. I guarantee there was. But he put his head down, he took the freaking bullets flying, they flew over his head, they never hit him, and now, where is he today? Why can't you do that in America? If you're born in this country, you inherently know the language, most likely. You inherently know how the system works. The idea that it's too hard to achieve in America is freaking insane, and it's evil languaging, and it needs to be nipped in the bud ASAP, because America's a good place. But it's especially good for those who want to achieve something. It doesn't have to be financial. You have the right to fail, you have the right to be poor, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's on you. And just assume that there's some oppressive white supremacist holding you back is evil. There's no evidence of that. And the people making those statements should be ashamed of themselves, but they won't because they're doing it to vie for power over your life. God, it infuriates me such. And this guy's lesson is just one of many. One of many. Anyway, I figured I'd share that with you. It's a message of hope because it needs to be said again and again and again. It's on you, brother. Are you going to be one of these snowflakes? They're all out to get me. I'm scared. There's a Nazi under my bed. We're going to say, I don't even give a crap. If there were a Nazi under my bed, I'm going to stomp his head and I'm going to move on. I'm going to drive on. I'd say the other part of that is an infantryman, but I won't. For the ladies, I'm going to drive on. I'm going to go Herschel Walker. I'm going to run over people to get what I want. In a diligent way, not stealing. But I'm going to run over. But you're going to put a roadblock in front of me, man. I'm lowering down my helmet, my Georgia red. I'm running over you, man. You can't stop me.